So this is going to be a 4-year update of the Pace Edwards switchback tonneau cover. I've had this one for about 4 years now, and it is now starting to fall apart. We do live in a Texas climate, which is very hot, and we get a lot of sun. This truck also is parked outside all the time, and I did not do any maintenance on this cover at all. So I'll show you kind of what's happened. The first thing that started happening is this rubber seal starts to just disintegrate. Now this does say to put some UV protectant on this. I did not do that. I only put the initial coating on when we first got it 4 years ago. So this was to be expected since this is exposed to the sun all the time. This tonneau cover has started to delaminate. So this is kind of a vinyl cover on top, and underneath you can see the aluminum slats. But this is essentially glued on, and the glue has just started to separate. Another thing is this has a kind of a coil spring of some kind inside the box, which is supposed to help retract the tonneau cover. That kind of stopped working about a year after. Also here behind the seal, this plastic has just cracked in multiple places. I'd say it really has a good seal because it overlaps the tailgate a little bit. So that part has been good, but everything else hasn't been the greatest. The prior tonneau cover that I had before this one was the exact same tonneau cover, had the exact same issues. So today I'm going to be installing a new tonneau cover, which I've ordered from RealTruck.com. It is the Retrax Pro XR. That is an aluminum version that has aluminum slats. There's no vinyl. There's no rubber seals on the side that could be exposed to the sun. It is a manual retractable cover, and it has a little handle that you can flip up and roll back and forth, so that's nice. So the new tonneau cover comes with a T-slot rail system, so that should be compatible with most T-slot accessories. So we're going to install the new tonneau cover right after we've taken out the old one. So let's get started. So I gotta take these white tubes out first, and also remove this bracket. So take this out. Alright, I gotta keep this because we're gonna use that for a spacer. Same thing on the other side. Next, I need to get the keys to be able to unlock the latch. So that's got to be unlatched so that we can pull this out just a tiny bit. That should be good. I'm going to start with the driver's side rail, and it has a channel right here that the two rollers basically here need to go into. So we're gonna do that. So we have another tab here, right there, that needs to be aligned with this, which is gonna be on the inside. Right now the tab's on the outside. Metal piece has to be behind that, and then the other tab needs to be behind this piece, so we're gonna screw that in real quick. So we have these two stainless steel screws, Phillips. Screw this in here. Now for the other side. Next, we have a front cover that has a seal that overlaps the front of the bed. And it should have a hole that aligns. I'm going to use this Allen wrench. Same on the other side. Lock this into position so that this doesn't roll on us. Right now it's actually sitting a little wonky, I guess, because it's not sitting flat. Hopefully when we put the clamps on, this will start straightening out a little bit. Front here, just got to make sure that this rubber seal is overlaying the front of the bed, basically all the way down. I want to use this part of the spacer here. I think it's 1/8 of an inch. And we're going to place this right behind this part right here. And we need to make sure that when we close the tailgate, we want to make sure that it doesn't strike that railing. So right now there's quite a gap. I'm just going to put this in there and start pushing the rail back. So I'm going to start pulling back a bit. So that's pretty good. Let me try the other side now and do the same thing. I've got about 1/2 inch here for a gap, so I'm gonna pull this back some more. That might be too much. Yeah. So I need to pull it back. All right, so at the moment I have just enough of a gap there on this side. Let's see if this side moved any. That's okay here as well. Let's take a look at the front seal, and it's still laying over the edge. You can just barely see the metal here at the front, but it's laying on top. Just want to make sure that seal isn't squished. All right, looks fine to me. So after checking the gaps here at the tailgate, I'm gonna just loosen this so that we can roll this back. so that hopefully we have the side-to-side width about where we need it. Okay, looks like I can close it. So next I'm going to put all the clamps on loosely, and I'm going to adjust these spacers. But basically the clamps are going to be sitting right in between the two plastic screws. You can adjust those, and it adjusts the rail in and out. So that's probably going to be one of the first adjustments I'm going to play around with. Then I'm going to start clamping down the clamp with this screw. And then this screw here is basically just meant to push out like this so that it adjusts how angled it is. So let me go ahead and do that. So I've got everything tightened up now. The clamps are all in. So the last thing is drain tubes. So this has some kind of rubberized seal, and we just have to clamp them in. And since I already had drain tubes from the first installation, I've already got my holes. I didn't really hear anything click, but it's kind of barely holding itself. Okay, that one I heard a little bit of a click, but I don't think that's gonna hold too well. So here's the final install. Everything's put together. I've kind of made sure that this is slightly slanted upwards by adjusting that one screw. You've got your lock under this rubber seal so that water doesn't really get into this lock. Just push this button to open, then you can grab this. This thing's really easy to roll. So if you have it all the way closed and you close this, you can see it latches right behind this white pin. So that's gonna keep it from rolling forward. Now you can open it and basically lock it in place anywhere else. Just kind of push down on it, which might be a little difficult with one hand, but what it is essentially doing is just clamping itself down on this rail. And when you clamp down on it, that little pin is what actually pokes itself into this metal railing. So if for some reason this is sliding on you when this is locked, then you may want to adjust this tiny little pin. I was afraid that this might rattle when you're driving, but I actually think this is a lot quieter than my other one. This is aluminum. It's a low profile design, and it has a matte finish. It is pretty tough looking. It has a little foam pad underneath to keep the water out, and it has a nice T-slot here. You can put T-slot accessories inside this, like you could put a rack on top, or even a rooftop tent if you had the rack to support it. Of course, here's the seal on the front. It's basically just preventing most of the water from coming in by just shedding it off. Now the rear has a little tiny rubber seal down here. What I'm worried about is that anything that's rubber is going to be cracking or breaking over time because of the sun. The UV rays are just going to eat this stuff up, so I'm gonna have to try to protect this. There's no rubber seal that's visible here. It almost feels like they've used some sort of black felt to wrap this metal in to try to keep some of that water out. Then in the back, we've got a seal that basically sits against the tailgate when shut. Then the seal is just inside. It doesn't overlap this. So I guess if you were to shoot water in here, like with the pressure washer, then that water most likely is going to come into your tailgate. So I'm fully expecting this to get wet whenever I wash the vehicle. Most of the water should flow into this channel, and let's say the water runs down here, down the channel. I think that's supposed to end up in the container and then go down these hoses. The water, if it were to flow backwards, well, it's just going to end up right here, dripping somewhere down this channel. Might get the side of this wet, but I think some of the water might just miss the carpet here. But that's one of the reasons why I've put this at an angle, so that the water stays inside of this this channel here. Each slat has a little bit of a rubber gasket or something, some sort of rubber seal in between each slat that shouldn't leak, but we'll see how this does in the wet. Of course, this is also made out of rubberized plastic, so this may not do so well in the sun either. But I think this is a very simple manual truck cover, and it should probably last a little bit longer than some of the electric ones, but that's just my hope. If something breaks, I think you can buy this latch as a replacement, but I believe it does have a lifetime warranty, and the price you pay is probably higher in the segment. You get what you pay for, I guess. I like that this is very smooth and flat right here. With the other tonneau cover, this had that raised part. I like the design here a lot better. I guess if you live in an area where you have leaves, you might get some leaves that go into the slot here, into the canister. I'm not sure if you can actually slide this out, because you'd have to, well, you can't slide this forward because it hit the cab, so I don't know if you'd have to take the clamps off. I mean, there's some canisters that are designed to where you can actually take like a cover off and get into the canister. This does not appear to be the case with this. You'd have a really hard time trying to get into the canister. I don't think there's any access door. It's all metal. This particular hose was not seated properly. I think the way this is sealed here is kind of questionable. I'm not holding my breath that this is going to be very good at keeping the water out. One last thing, at the front here also, it has kind of that rubber seal. This is the same material as the back end, so this has that same kind of rubberized material. So you get 2 keys to be able to lock. Looks like the build quality is actually pretty good. So what I like about this is that you can grab this from the outside. That way I don't have to crawl into the bed to be able to open it, so that's nice. Latch is fairly easy, and then you can just close this. It's rained overnight, so I'm just gonna see if we've got any ingress of water. Clean that off. Looks like this is looking pretty dry. There's a little bit of water down in there. And it rained pretty heavily last night. So all that water is going to go into the canister. It's not too bad. It's actually feels dry. This may be a little wet right here, tiny bit. I do have some water here at the bottom of the tailgate, so I guess it dripped. Let's take a look at the sides. Sides feels dry. I think these drops here are just from just now. When I opened it, you can see there's still water hanging off the seal there. And of course there's a little bit of water inside the handle, but there's a little hole there in case you get water in there. I think think it's supposed to drain down that hole. So this seal here is supposed to keep the water out. I think that's working fine. It's just when I opened it, for some reason, all that water, it just started dripping here in the back. Also, I can see some drops on the hose. And the canister is dripping. The seal on this plastic edge is not very good, so I may need to seal this with some sort of epoxy or something. Also, the seal down here, I may need to use some epoxy on that as well. So this one is pretty wet. So overall, I think the interior stayed fairly dry. So yeah, just wanted to share it real quick before I send out the video so that you're aware that this is not completely waterproof. So the sun is about to set on me, so if you like the video, please leave a like, comment, subscribe, and I should be releasing quite a few videos coming fairly soon. I have taken some time off. I've got a lot of videos that I recorded, but I just needed time to be able to edit them, so I'm still working on it, but hopefully I will be releasing some videos coming soon. But I'll see you in the next one.